Today we're going to look at a kata breakdown video for our purple and white belts who are working through Tekki Shodan. So we're going to spend a little bit of time going through the kata, helping you understand the basic building blocks of the kata, and maybe adding some more technical points in along the way for our more senior grades. Of course. Okay, so first thing I want to concentrate on is the stance around the kata. So in Shotokan, we do kiberachi for this kata. The original version of this kata is known as naihanchi, and the stance that was used in the kata was naihanchi dachi. So naihanchi dachi was much shorter, much smaller, but still the basic shape of what we would refer to as kiberachi. So when we're looking at this kata, what I want you to try and concentrate on is using maybe a slightly shorter but very stable kiberachi. So making sure that the concentration is on the outside edges of the foot facing forwards and the knees not collapsing in. So I want you to think about pushing the knees forwards and out, engaging the glutes, pushing your hips forwards, and making sure that that stance is stable and strong, but not too big and too wide that the stance disappears, that you lose the stability in your ankles and your hips and your backside. So kiberachi, but maybe a little bit shorter, a little bit narrower, but still nice deep bend in your knees and making sure that the knees don't collapse in. Okay, so different groups will start this kata in different ways. As I mentioned before, the original version of this kata was known as naihanchi. And in that kata, there was a very specific start to the kata, a very specific salutation, a very specific yoi. And whilst not all Shotokan groups do it this way, it's something that I believe is important from an application perspective. It's something that I want to keep into the kata. So from here, from your bow, you say the kata's name, Tekki Shodan. And then we create the yoi for the kata. So first we bring the hands towards you. So middle fingers of the left hand on the outside, right hand on the inside, middle fingers touching. Then what I want you to do is I want you to feel like you're going to bring the hands in and down. And we go to that position, but at the same time, our feet close together. So that start of the kata should look like this. Tekki Shodan. Then hands drop down. So hands, same height as the belt, pushing downwards, left hand on top of right, middle fingers touching exactly. First move of the kata, what I want you to think about doing is you're going to drop the weight. Same as most kata, there's a weight drop. So when you do that, don't drop the weight backside going backwards, drop the weight so you drop downwards. We're making sure that you keep your hips engaged. So we're going to drop down, we're going to put a lot of the weight through our right leg, and we're going to take our left leg and we're going to send it across our body. Okay? So right leg's going to stay heavy, left leg's going to go across, and in Japanese it's called Yoko Sashi Ashi. The best name in any move in karate is sideways stealthy step. So we're going to step across and look. If you notice, my hands don't move with me. My hands stay where they are. I then put the weight through my left leg and I lift my right leg up. What I want you to think about is I want you to make sure that your knee points forwards as you lift, then fires out into kiberachi. Okay. What a common mistake is as we drop and look, we lift the knee points that way. And what happens when the knee points that way, the stance disappears as you land. What I want you to think about doing is thinking knee up to the front, ankle slightly further forward than knee, ankle flexed. So we're going to step across and look. We're going to go knee up, then fire out. Arm in line with the shoulder, tiny little bend in, fingers together, this hand tucked around behind. So one more time. Step across and look. Lift, hand comes out. Then from here, energy into that hand. Then we're going to drop and make koshi kamai, hip position. Every time we do this, cup and saucer position, I look in the opposite direction. Then I'm going to make giran barai. Then I'm going to hook round and make kagizuki, hook punch. One more time. Drop, cross and look. Hands stay where they are. Knee up, fire out. Enki. Koshi kamai, change the head. Giran barai, kagizuki. That's the first section. And just looking at that section again, one more for our kind of senior grades here. So I just want you to think about hip positioning when you go through this section. So hips should be open here. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to open up too much like you're arching your back. You almost want like just a slight tilt in and this shoulder kind of rolled around. What I then want you to think about doing, in the same way that we move from shoulder to hand knee and front stance, I want you to think about how we can rotate our hip without letting our stance collapse. So I'm going to rotate my hip this way, hips, it's going to turn, body's going to turn, at the same time I do my MP. What I need you to make sure of is as you do that, that knee, that leg doesn't collapse. So we're going to turn in this way. Then, as we make Koshikama, we change our hip position, and I want you to fire that hip forwards. So we're going to turn the hip in slightly, fire that hip forwards as I make Gidan Barai. So we'll now go to that neutral position again. Here, when I make Gidan Barai, when I go into this next move, again, I want us to turn our hips just slightly, maybe like 10% into that section here. Then, as I'm going to make Kagizuki, hooking punch, I'm going to make a circle with this hand. Circle and pull back. What I do from here is I release my hip and then fire it back through me. So I made my Gidan Barai here, release and fire. So every time there is movement from my heels upwards. Feet up, never shoulders down, always feet up. So that action feels like I'm pushing through my feet and pushing through my legs to allow me to turn my hips. Square my hips off as I turn my head. Turn in slightly as I make Gidan Barai. Hook as I make that Kagizuki. This is a circle. Circle, then pull round. Circle, pull round. Circle, pull round. Circle, pull round. You want to try and make this now not two moves, but one flowing movement here. So really important for senior grades that you are still able to use your hips and your body without compromising the stance. And not all shoulders. Push. So now moving on to the next section. So we finished off with this Kagizuki punch here. From here we continue now with that same movement we did as move number one, that sideways selfie step. So what I want you to make sure is as you step across, make sure that the step over is over your foot but under your knee. A lot of people will step this way and it kind of collapses over their knee. I want you to come round and let the foot cut across, and then we have that same knee lift again that we had at the start of the cut. So from here we're going to step across, lift that knee, same thing as I said before, knee lift to the front, ankle slightly forward, further forward than knee, foot flexed, imagine like you're catching and hooking here, and then feel like you're firing your heel and the outside edge of your heel down, back into that stable stance with a concentration on the outside edge of your feet staying forwards. Now we combine the arms with that section. So as we step across here, we lift that leg and squeeze everything into the center. So I want you to think from here, squeeze, and then come back down with that racket. So as the leg goes up, the hand squeezes into the center. So we're going to step across here, so we're facing this way. Knee lift, squeeze, then change your head as that Uchuki position comes out. One more time, step over, knee and squeeze, then make Uchuki. Again, different groups will do this different ways. Some people will do this from low, others will do this from high. I think the most important thing isn't necessarily the specific of the detail about where the hand goes, but I want you to feel like the idea that you create compression and expansion is the most important part there. So once we've landed, step across, squeeze and release. Then we're going to come outside, lift and push, and drop down. So just show that one more time. I'll show it on a bit more of an angle as well. So hand on your hips going to come on the outside. So I want you to think outside line, circle, round and past the face, lead hand pushes up. Really open this chest up, open the shoulder. And from here, this hand is going to drop down and it's going to rest the elbow on top of that wrist joint. So one more time, from here, outside, lift and push, drop down. Now from here to the end of this section in the kata, head first, Same side that the hands are. Then feet, then hands. Then head, feet, and then hands. So one more time with that. From here, head faces forwards. Head, feet, hands. Try and get hands and feet to land at the same time. Same the other way. Head, feet, hands. Try and get hands and feet to land at the same time. Just one more thing on that. See this taught quite a lot. People kicking the inside of the thighs. I don't want that leg to come up onto the inside of the thigh. I want that leg to come up in front of you. So a nice way to practice this is set yourself up into that Kiberachi position and try to maintain the structure of your stance, but imagine all the movement comes from your knee and in front of your body, not inside. So you can practice that nice and easy. Back straight, good stance, hips engaged. So it happens in front of the body, not inside of the body, and it happens from the knee, not the whole body. So one more time on that section, we go head, feet, hands, head, feet, hands, drop to that koshi kamai position again, cup and saucer. As I do that, I change my head. Then from here, this hand raises slightly, this hand comes out and hooks. Don't go across the body, come out and roll over. So raise and hook. Do that section at the same time. One more time. Raise, hook. Into here. So, that section, last time, from here, looking this way, step across. Knee lift and squeeze, make uchi-uki. Outside, lift and push and drop down. Head, feet, hands. Head, feet, hands. Drop and change. Aye! Ki aya. That takes us through to halfway in the kata. So the great thing about this kata is it's a real mirror image. So virtually everything we've done on one side, we now repeat almost identically on the other side. There's just a slight difference in terms of our transition. So if you remember, we landed in this koshi kamai position. We had a raise and a hook, both hands working at the same time. Now the only difference between the first half of the kata and the second is how you transition into the next section. So from here I want you to think hand under, flat and turn. And if you remember, that's the position we got into at the start of the kata. So one more time, hand underneath, elbows touching. Elbows touching, circle and round from here. One more time. Underneath, underneath. Try and find your hip, but don't worry too much about your hip. Worry more about your elbows touching. Out and circle. And now we repeat everything we've done, just on the opposite side of the body. Elbow, slight turn of our hips. Koshi kamai, change the head. Gidan barai, kagizuki. Move around so you have some more room. Step across. Squeeze, then the head changes. Outside, lift and push, drop down. Now from here, head first, then feet, then hands land at the same time. Then the other side, head, feet, hands. Koshi kamai, change the head. Raise and hook at the same time. Raise and hook at the same time. Then from here, open the hands, look. Come back to the start of the kata. So it's just a mirror image. So one more time, we'll do this from here. Let's start across this way a little bit so we get some room. So from here, elbows touch, circle around. Elbow, change your head. Gidan barai, kagizuki. Step, lift and squeeze and then expand. Outside line, lift and push, drop down. Head, feet, hands. Head, feet, hands. Koshi kamai and change the head. Two techniques and that's where you ki. Open, look, back to the start of the kata. Tekki Shodan. Tekki Shodan.